Welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today we're going to be talking to Jess Lenouvel. She is the founder of the Listings Lab, and she is a longtime real estate agent who earned consistently over 7 figures a year while being in production. We're going to be breaking down her framework for how to generate leads and her strategies on how you can get more listings. If you have any questions, put them in the box down below. As always, make sure you check out the links in the description. And if you like money and you like real estate, hit that subscribe button because this is the show for you. We'll see you on the inside. Welcome to Founders Club, the show for real estate entrepreneurs. All right, Jess, welcome back to Founders Club.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So we already did one of these a few years ago, and it was really well received. And obviously, the market has changed quite a bit since then.
Yep.
And you're quite the expert on growing a listing-based business and how to get more listings as a realtor. So that's kind of what we want to dive in today, especially in this newer market.
Yep.
And so, for those that don't know, why don't you give us a quick background? Because I know that you spent many years as a 7-figure agent and kind of built your business off listings. So why don't we start there?
Yeah. So I am Canadian originally, based in Toronto, and excuse me, I moved to the Bahamas about 4 years ago. But I got my license initially when I was 21. So I was really young, didn't really have much of a sphere, and had to build my business really differently. There was this brand new thing called Facebook that had launched in 2004. I got my license in 2005. So I essentially built my entire business base off of Facebook and off of building relationships online. I started at a training brokerage, and my brokerage was telling me, you've got to work your sphere, you've got to do repeats, referrals, all of those things. And I was 21. My friends were not buying and selling property at that point. And my mom had been in the industry for about 20 years. She's been in the industry about 40 at this point. So yeah, I mean, it just, that wasn't the way that was going to work for me. It didn't make any sense from a logical standpoint. And so I had to figure out a different way to do it. I'm also naturally very introverted. So the introverted side of me was never going to fall in love with the business, door knocking and cold calling. So Facebook worked really well for me. I built everything organically. And then the first year that I went to 7 figures was the first year we actually started running paid traffic. And so we started running paid traffic online. We started building the business base. And yeah, I mean, it was just kind of history from there. I stopped selling in 2017 when I built the Listings Lab. I'm a really big believer that you can't do multiple things well. So I left the selling side of real estate and built the Listings Lab, which is what we've been doing and running since then.
Awesome. So let's talk about that, because I know that the Listings Lab is a coaching platform that helps agents get more listings. So why don't you kind of walk us through the framework of like the 30,000 foot view, and then I definitely want to go deeper on like your social media strategies, your paid traffic strategies, some of the stuff you just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Listings Lab as a company has a couple of different layers of programs. I don't consider myself to be a coach, but we do have coaches who work on our team. So our different programs are laid out differently depending on what the agent needs. We have a program for agents to get to 6 figures. We have a marketing program to get from agents from 6 to 7 figures. And then we have our 7-figure agent programs that are really geared around getting agents to build small, lean teams so that they can scale those 7-figure businesses and not live and breathe the business. So we really are a freedom lifestyle based company. I think that there's a lot of people who could hustle their way to 7 figures and burn out really quickly and then ride that roller coaster. That's not the business model that we teach. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of, it started out as just the Listings Lab program, which is the marketing foundations program. And then it scaled into, I guess, different layers that met the needs of different agents who were coming to us at different times.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense that you would segment it like that, but maybe walk us through just kind of like what the strategy is overall that
Yeah.
like any agent could use, and then we can dive a little deeper on some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, I think that there's this misconception that social media is that social media is an addition to any other marketing that people are doing. I really think that in 2025, social media and creating a digital brand is probably going to, for most people, be the easiest and fastest way for someone to scale their business quickly. If someone's looking for exponential growth and they don't have 40 years to build a referral base, then the easiest and fastest way to build, I like to call it like evangelism in your business, and have people, coming to you, not having to chase down business, not having to chase down cold leads. The easiest way to do that is to build a brand online. So it gets broken down into two different pieces. We've got the organic marketing side, and then we have the paid traffic side. The mistake that I think a lot of people make is they run paid traffic before they have the organic side of their business really mastered. And then we get people who come to us, they're like, oh, I've run Facebook ads and they don't work. And I'm like, okay, so what was the strategy? Well, I ran Facebook ads. I ran lead gen ads on Facebook. And I'm like, well, that's not really a strategy. That's the reality is that it doesn't matter where the lead is generated from. A cold lead is a cold lead. And in my opinion, and what we found works pretty much 100% of the time, is it matters more what you do with the lead after they become a lead. So for us, we spend more marketing budget on someone after they become a lead, not just on the generation of the lead in the first place. So I think old school digital marketing is you generate a lead, you call the lead. And the reality is that people don't answer their phones anymore. And nobody wants to be called by an agent just because they filled out a form. And so in order to take that person, we have a psychological framework that we use to take that person from complete stranger to client, to become an inbound piece of business. It's very different you calling someone saying, hey, you filled out my form to get this free thing that was just so that I could get your phone number, to, hey, I've been following you for 3 months. Everything that you say really resonates with me. I feel like you're like reading my diary and speaking my language. Can we meet? It's a very different quality of conversation that people are having. And I think that old school idea of generate the lead, call the lead is broken in 2025. There's too many agents. There's too many people lead generating. There's too much noise online. It just doesn't work. Now, from an organic standpoint, the organic side of the business generation is, in my opinion, so much more fun. And if you know what you're doing, so much easier. But I think that the reality of real estate agents is that everyone's just kind of copying each other. Yeah. And because everyone's copying each other, everyone's doing that, frankly, doing it wrong and using social media like a billboard.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said that, because there's a couple things I wanna clarify and go deeper on. Like, I think at this point we've all heard, oh, you got to build your brand online, right? Yes. And I think we all agree, but I think there's a big disconnect between people actually doing it and having a plan versus people just thinking that they need to do it, or like posting pictures of listings and things like that.
100%.
So why don't we talk about let's talk about that plan first.
Yeah.
And then I want to go deeper on what you said about after the lead.
Yeah, totally. So organically, building a brand online is building know, like, and trust. And we've heard that a million times, and it's become almost a cliche. But the reality of what most agents are really doing is using social media, like I said, like a billboard. They're posting properties. They're posting, it's a mix between billboard marketing and thinking that they get to be an influencer. And both of those things are incorrect. Building a personal brand as a service-based business requires you to actually understand the psychology of the niche that you're actually wanting to attract. So you have to have a target demographic, and you have to know what that target demographic needs to hear from you in order to choose you. The question that I ask people all the time is, why do people follow you? And would you follow yourself? And I think just that element of reflection provides a lot of clarity into why real estate agents do not find success on organic social media platforms. Because
I love that.
yeah, I mean, it's true though. Like,
And yeah, one thing we also talk a lot about is being clear on your customer avatar,
right,
right? And then speaking to that avatar,
right.
and that's how you grow as opposed to just spray and pray on social media.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about those type of strategies once
Yeah,
you've
for sure. For sure.
identified your avatar. Hey there, I just have a quick favor to ask. If you're getting value from Founders Club and you're watching on YouTube, just give us a like, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. These things are free to do and it really helps the channel, and it also helps us be able to bring better guests for you in the future. Now back to the episode.
So if I was going to really simplify it, there's the more complex version of what we teach is really a 9-point psychological journey from stranger to client. So there's 9 different pieces of psychology that then get translated into 9 different types of content that will take someone from stranger to client and give them everything that they need in order to choose you. If I was going to simplify it, just so that I'm not scaring everybody who's listening to this, I would break it down into 3 major categories or 3 major buckets. We have personal content, authority content, and social proof. Now, authority content is just content that creates authority for you. The easiest one that I would say most agents are doing incorrectly is something like market reports, right? Most agents are throwing up infographics. They're throwing up something that actually has no inherent value and is just data. A lot of the time, they're not even creating it themselves. They're not pulling their own data. They're taking an infographic that their brokerage or their board provided for them. The biggest issue that I have with that is that there's actually no inherent value. And when I say value, it's what does this mean for you? So if you can answer the question, what does this mean for you? It provides a whole deeper level of authority and trust to be able to distill the data or interpret the data for that ideal client base or that customer avatar and be able to give them advice or something actionable is, in that context, the definition of value. So we've got the authority bucket, then we have personal content, and the majority of agents do not post enough personal content. I see people all the time, I'm going to use Instagram as an example, where most agents have 2 Instagram accounts. They have their personal account and they have their business account. When that is the case, 9 times out of 10, there's not enough personal content on your business account. And
don't do that.
You can't expect someone to know you, like you, and trust you if they don't know anything about you. It's actually the personal content that creates the personal brand. And right. I've been saying this for
and on the other side, no one wants to follow your real estate page where you just post your new listings and all of that. 100%. It's the combination of both that make you more interesting.
So here's the thing too, with just posting property. People move every 8.5 years on average right now. And if you are only relevant to people every 8.5 years, you're going to have a ton of audience churn and you're going to lack a lot of relevancy, and no one is actually going to follow you for very long, and your engagement is going to drop, your brand is going to die. And that's why so many people have so much difficulty growing an audience that's not full of real estate agents, because the only people who that kind of marketing is relevant to 100% of the time is other agents.
Totally agree. So let's talk about what kind of, do you have some ideas on creating relevant content? Maybe give a couple different examples of things that would be good.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be different for every avatar. So, right. I mean, if you work, the way that we teach niching down is also very different for most people, right? So many people for so many years have been teaching avatar creation from other industries that doesn't really make sense. They've been trying to take it from other industries and bring it into real estate, and it hasn't worked. So I think that the most important thing is to focus on the life transition. So things like upsizers, downsizers, first-time buyers, first-time investors, seasoned investors, young professionals who want to build wealth through real estate. I think you have to be very granular in terms of how you're niching down. And I know that there's going to be someone listening to this who is saying, yeah, but I'm in a smaller market. It doesn't matter. You still have to have a niche. It would be better if you actually expanded your market reach a little bit and you drove a tiny bit farther, and instead of trying to speak to everyone. You know, we've all heard the cliche, when you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. And digitally, that is even more true, because agents online are not competing with other agents. Your competition is not another agent in your market. It's MAC Cosmetics and your favorite football team, and you're the celebrity that is also posting that other people are following. You're competing with all the other people who someone else might follow for watch time. And in 2025,
Kardashian and Ronaldo.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so watch time is the only thing that actually matters. It's not likes and comments and saves and all of those things. Those things don't actually matter as much as they did a couple of years ago. 100% of the platform is geared around, are you keeping people on the platform? And so if someone is staying and watching your content, or watching longer periods of your content, or binging your content, you're keeping them on the platform, which then makes the platform money. And so in order to use the algorithm in your favor, you have to be creating content that is entertaining or informative and exciting. And so we've actually shifted to 90% video content. And you know, it's funny because people will say, yeah, the algorithm prefers video. The algorithm doesn't care. It's people who prefer video. So nowadays, people are used to consuming content a little bit differently. TikTok has changed the way that people are consuming content. So whether you're on Facebook or you're on Instagram or you're on TikTok, it doesn't matter what platform you're on. It's still the video content that matters the most. It's short form video content that is actually like king right now. And so understanding what your ideal client needs to hear from you. So I'll give you an example of authority content. So authority content could be a really, really great micro market report. It could be teaching something that is a pain point, or identifying a pain point that your ideal client base has and being able to talk through it, or talk through your own story of going through it. Being able to say, hey, when I was about to upsize, I remember what that exact point was where I realized like I literally couldn't do this anymore. And I think we have to remember that people don't move because it's fun. People move because there's something in their current situation that they think that they can fix or solve. They're moving away from pain. And they're doing that with a move, whether it's a new school district, whether it's a bigger property, whether it's a new location, you know, whether it's a move from Toronto to the Bahamas. We move away from pain and towards pleasure in whatever niche category we fit into. So authority content has to be geared towards pains, problems, fears, and desires, understanding those things from a psychological standpoint, and being able to either resonate or teach something that is within that category. Personal content is essentially a free-for-all. Personal content can be past stories. It can be things that are happening to you in the present. But the most important part is that people can laugh with you. So there is an element of lightheartedness that is important in a personal brand that most agents are missing because they're not yet comfortable enough on video. So that element of getting really, really comfortable and being able to be yourself is, or be vulnerable, or, you know, be authentic. There's a million ways to say it, but the way that you are in the car with your best friend or your husband or your wife or your partner, you have to get to a point where you can be that way on camera.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because you know, it's funny. We coach a lot of agents at our brokerage, and it's interesting how many people go into like complete robot mode when you turn on the camera. It's like,
yeah. The camera turns on and then they start speaking like a dictionary.
Right.
And all of their personality is gone. And this could be someone who is literally the funniest, most engaging person to their clients or in person. And then the camera gets turned on and they become a robot, exactly like you said. And so, you know, no one likes the way that they look on video. No one does.
Right.
0%, right? I'm
Yeah.
looking at my face right now as we are filming this and I'm thinking, but the
Exactly.
reality
I hate
is
the sound of my voice. I hate the way that I look. You can see my
exactly
hair was out of place.
right.
Yada yada yada.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I think so often we just have to get over it. And we have to get to a point where we just understand that it's not about what we look like. It's not about what we sound like. It's about what actually comes out of our mouths. It's about the
Right.
message. And,
And I know this is breaking news, but that is what you look
that's
like,
what
and
you
that
look like.
is how you sound. So it's not that serious.
100%. And I think that, every once in a while I'll have somebody who's like, I'm like, just record it right now. And they're like, well, I have to shower and I have to do my makeup. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
this is literally what you look like. And so
Right.
I really think that, just practicing being on video as much as you possibly can, or getting to a point where you forget that someone's filming and you can just relax. And if something comes out and you really hate it, you don't have to use it. The more video
Yeah,
that you can
exactly. The
take,
good news is you can always delete it.
100%,
And the other thing to keep in mind is your first video, it probably is going to be
it's going to
terrible.
be
But
terrible.
it's just like, if you want to learn to ski or snowboard, the first time you go, you're going to fall a lot. You're
You're
not
going to
going to
be
be
bad.
very good. And then the fifth time you're going to be a little better. The 10th time you're going to be better. And then by the 100th time, you're going to be getting down the mountain, no problem. It's the same thing with video, and just turn it on, shoot the videos. If they're not good, throw them up and delete them right away. Like but
I had a
yeah.
coach years ago who told me that I wasn't allowed to say I didn't like something until I'd done it 1,000 times.
Mm.
And by the 1,000th time, you don't not like something because you're good
Yeah,
at
it
it.
doesn't bother you anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of adults, we're not used to being bad at things.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's just assume that we're creating
We're
content.
creating content, we're on
We've got our
video.
niche figured out. We're doing the social
Yeah.
media thing. We're doing videos. The other thing you said is you're marrying that with paid traffic. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, paid traffic can, first of all, it always depends on the budget and it depends on the outcome that someone's looking for. Someone who's looking to generate 100 clients a year, the paid traffic strategy is going to be different than someone who's looking to generate 15 clients a year.
Right.
Right.
And I would also say if you're newer in the business, that part is probably optional. Create the content first, and then the paid is for scaling up.
Absolutely. And I think that there's a lot of people who throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall thinking that that's going to generate them business. And the reality is that you have to be proficient at creating content, or you have to at least have a certain volume of good quality content before you run ads. The other thing that I will preface is do not boost content. Boosting content is essentially giving Facebook your money to light on fire. And so boosting content, and I think there's so many agents who, because they don't know how to build campaigns and they don't really know how to run paid traffic, they boost content because it's the easiest thing to do. Don't run paid traffic if you don't know how to run paid traffic. So this from a strategy standpoint, well, like I said at the beginning of our chat, we spend more money on someone after they become a lead. So it doesn't really matter as long as the lead is a decent quality lead, or is in the correct location and market, and is willing to part with their email address. I think that's probably the number one thing, because all of this, social media, paid traffic, everything is in order to get you people to retarget and email subscribers, because email is the only list you own. And so your Facebook can get hacked, your Instagram can get hacked, TikTok can be banned. It doesn't matter what's going to happen in the world, right? We don't own those lists. The only list that we own is our email list. So the ideal situation is that every time you generate a lead and every time you generate any kind of connection, that person is also subscribing to your email list, so that you can use email as an additional form of what we call omnipresence, which is another form of being in front of that person and being top of mind. So let's say that the lead comes in through a listing ad or a hot sheet ad or some sort of a lead magnet download. There's a million different ways to generate a cold lead. That is not the rocket science part. In fact, none of it's rocket science, but that's probably the easiest part, is to generate the lead in the front end. Once that lead is generated, then your job is to warm that lead up from cold to hot, or from cold to inbound business. And so if that person, because some people are going to be in information gathering mode and they're not looking to move for 6 months.
Right.
Yes, you can retarget someone for 6 months, and you need to get that person following you organically and on your email list for you to be able to follow up with them and stay top of mind longer. Now, for those people who are in that like 90-day or less cycle, your job is to warm them up as quickly as possible and get them to be an inbound piece of business. The psychology matters so much. And I think sometimes people forget this, especially when they're talking about digital marketing. They forget people are people. They forget that these are human beings that they're marketing to, and they're looking at, they're too focused on the numbers. Every single person knows an agent, is friends with an agent, or has a cousin who's an agent, or a sister, or a mom. You're competing with those people through your paid traffic. If you want an inbound piece of business, your content has to essentially convince them that they want to work with you over that other person. And so again, the same psychology that we use in organic marketing, those three buckets, the authority, the personal, and the social proof, it matters in your paid traffic as well. So, and this is a distinction that I think is really important. So many agents believe that they sell real estate. Real estate agents don't sell real estate. Real estate agents sell services, and then they consult on the sale of real estate. And once you understand that, it will completely change the way that you look at marketing and paid traffic, because you are selling your services. You are not selling property.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So
pardon the quick interruption, but if you're looking for a little extra help growing your real estate business, make sure you hit the link in the description below to book a one-on-one consulting session where I will personally help you take your real estate business to the next level. Over the last 15 years, I've grown a brokerage to over 1,000 agents in multiple states, consistently doing over $4 billion a year in sales. And we've been on the Inc. 500 5 times. I would love to personally help you reach your business goals and have the best year you've ever had. Book your session today. And now back to the podcast.
The way that we approach marketing is, so many agents are just trying to generate leads through a listing. And then if you're generating leads through a listing, then those people are either just curious or they probably already have an agent. So there is this triangle that I use in a lot of my trainings that I got from a Benjamin Hardy book. And it basically breaks down your market into 4 categories. You have at the very bottom, not problem aware. The people who are not problem aware are very happy where they live. They're not moving. They're in that 8.5 years of like bliss wherever they're living. But then you have the three pieces at the top of this triangle. You have problem aware, you have information gathering, and then you have active buyer, or active person who is essentially going to transact right now. Most agents are only speaking to that 3% at the very top of the triangle. Yep. The way that I've always described it is, you are on a dating site for married people who don't want to cheat. You are literally trying to market to people who already have an agent or who are terrible quality clients. So the call me for all of your real estate needs, if you're looking to buy or sell, all of that messaging is fundamentally flawed, because you're not warming those people up in any way. You need to grab people when they're in problem aware or information gathering stages. When you do that, you have the ability to build that top of mind awareness. And then when they get to that top 3% of the triangle, then you are the person who they reach out to. And so when people say, I don't have anyone in my pipeline, an old school way of looking at a pipeline is, oh, I have 5 people who I know who have told me, people lie, that they are going to move in the next 90 to 180 days. The reality of 2025 is your pipeline is how many people do you have in that problem aware information gathering stage that you're warming up. That's like the modern day version of a full pipeline. And so that's what your paid traffic is for. It's to psychologically take that person from, I don't know who you are, to, I know you, I like you, I trust you, I think you're an authority, and essentially come list my house.
Yeah. How are people doing that?
So there's again, retargeting content, right?
Yep.
In those 3 buckets. Also, we teach a signature system. So every single person who goes through any of our programs has a service package that is different and unique and distinctive from everyone else in their market, but is also specifically built to solve the pains and problems of their ideal client. So again, we're selling the service. This also creates scalability in the business, because we're not building a business that, Oliver is magic. Oliver might be magic, but we're not advertising Oliver is magic, because if we do, as soon as you try to scale a team, it's essentially impossible and everyone only wants to work with you. When you create a method or a system that's the getter of results for your clients, then people get bought into that method or that system, and it doesn't matter who delivers it because it works every time.
Love that. That's great. And what does that look like? What is that? Is that just like a PDF document that kind of outlines those things, or is
it falls under authority content? So you can make probably 1 million. You create a really, really dope service package, and you can probably create like 1,000 pieces of content. It lives in your paid traffic funnel. It lives organically. Yes, it can be created as a guide. What we tend to teach is, if you have a listing presentation or a listing appointment, you send it in advance of the listing appointment so that people are going through it and reading it and understanding it. It can live in video format on YouTube. It can live on your website. It can be a lead magnet that someone can download. There's a lot of different ways to use it, but it becomes the cornerstone of your, like essentially the cornerstone of your marketing. And every business sells a product or a service. This becomes your product.
Love that. Love that. So it sounds like, we're getting clear on our avatar, step 1, whether that's, I want to be the dominant agent in this neighborhood or this
We don't
market,
teach neighborhoods.
or I want to be the land expert, or I want to be the upsize expert, or I want to be the senior living expert, or I want to be the whatever it is, right? Which is going to be different for everybody in every market. Then we're creating content for people that would be interested in that sort of a niche, whatever it is. And then
the people who actually just naturally are part of that niche. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Good distinction. And then we're backing that up with paid ads and paid media to kind of maybe drive like something of value, whether that's an opt-in or something that people, to your point, would want to part with their email address for. So now you're building your email address, they're hitting your website, you're able to retarget them, all of those things. So talk to me a little bit more about like the after lead, once they've opted in, how are we converting them?
So it depends on the budgets, depending on how, like frequency. But again, it falls into the 3 buckets. There's the 9-point psychological journey from stranger to client. It's the same strategy that we use for organic. Now, I want to make a distinction. There's 2 things that I just really want to make sure that I'm clear about. Number 1 is, you should be, to some extent, having success organically before you're running paid traffic.
Agreed.
So, because otherwise your messaging's not tested. And so, as much as people want to jump into paid traffic because it seems like it's going to be faster, a lot of the time people waste money because they haven't really mastered the message yet.
And to your point, it's free to test on social media. It's like, look, I just created this PDF on how to sell your house, or how to downsize if you're a senior. It includes all the resources, hit my link to download it. And if people are hitting your link and downloading it, you're onto something.
Exactly. And you should be getting feedback after the fact in terms of like what it was that you actually sent. Direct message is a great way to get that feedback. The second thing that I want to make very clear is why we don't geo-target or we don't niche down in terms of location. The reason behind that is because you can't psychologically move someone through a psychological journey if you niche down in terms of or you target in terms of location. Before we had the internet and before we had more interest targeting, the only way to be consistent and frequent was to be physically in front of someone. So cold calling, door knocking, flyers, billboards. Now that we have the ability to target people online, it's actually one of the least effective ways in order for us to narrow something down, because in one zip code, you could have upsizers, downsizers, first-time buyers, and investors. And so it makes it really difficult to actually nail the psychology, which makes it more expensive. And also your messaging can't be really targeted. You can't create really great relevancy if you're only targeting a small location. Now, in terms of once someone comes in and they're a cold lead, we use the same content. So I want to make that, I've said it a couple times, but I want to make it really clear. It's the same type of content. It's the 3 buckets: the authority content, the personal content, the social proof, or those 9. We break it down into 9 different types of content that we use to take someone from stranger to client. Most of that content does not have a call to action on it. Most of that content will show up in their feed looking more organic than looking like an ad. What we're doing is we're essentially the same way that we would nurture them organically. We're doing it by pushing content into their feed. We're not relying on the algorithm. We're pushing it into their feed. We're building that top of mind awareness. And then only in certain places are we actually throwing in a call to action. I think that's one of the other things that agents do really badly is they put a call to action on everything. And that's very like 2005 marketing, right? 90% of your stuff should not have a call to action on it. It should be purely value focused. If we want to use like old school Gary Vee thought process, it's, jab, jab, right hook. I would say jab 50 times before you right hook in 2025, right? Like give as much value. Like I've always said, marketing is a competition of how much value you can give. The person who gives the more.
And the value is where the following grows, right? That's
Exactly.
where you're growing your following, and then the leads will come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially organically, like call to actions in organic marketing don't work that well because that's not what people are there for. And so I think sometimes we forget that these are social networks, and the purpose of these platforms is to social network. It's to network socially. Yes, these are also paid ad platforms, but that's not fundamentally why people are there. People are there to consume content. They're there to create connection. They're there to feel something, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And so we have to play into what works on these platforms, whether we're using organic marketing or paid traffic.
All right. And then let's say we've gone through the process now, someone raises their hand. Mm-hmm. Now what happens?
You start a direct message conversation with that person, because most of the time that person is going to come in through direct message. When's the last time you checked your message requests? Right? Like, especially on Facebook, people will ask me for assets. I'll say, great, I'll send it to you in a direct message. And then they never see it because they don't check their message requests. And I've had clients who I've said, check your message requests. And they've been like, I missed like 15 clients over the last 5 years because I didn't check my message requests. And I was only seeing the messages from people I was Facebook friends with. Direct message is probably one of the primary locations where people convert from lead in funnel to appointment or inbound client. So the conversation will start in a direct message. We have a whole framework or a whole training that goes through how to take that person from lead in a DM to an appointment. But the whole idea is that Don't be too pushy. Don't push for a phone call before it feels natural. And that person reached out through DM because that was the mode of communication that they were initially comfortable. Once you get to a certain point of conversation where you've pre-qualified that person, where you understand a little bit about what they're looking for, you know that they've consumed some of your content, maybe you've even given them some value through direct message, then you can pitch do you want to hop on a Zoom call, or, or some sort of buyer consult or listing appointment.
Awesome. Okay, so let's say now we've done all that and we are at the listing. What tips do you have for us for, converting those people to signed contracts?
You should be speaking 20 to 30% of the time.
Okay.
Your primary objective is to ask questions and to give answers to the questions that they have. The old school way of thinking about this is a listing presentation. Listing presentations, when you think of the word presentation, you don't present to one other person. You have conversations with one other person. And I think that's really where people kind of lose people, is that they're talking at people for too long. And so a lot of this comes down to understanding, before you walk into the room, the pains, problems, fears, and desires of that person, and being able to tailor your questions and the things that you are going to talk about to what they need. I think most agents oversell. They keep talking. They don't allow there to be any silence, and they sell, 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 sell. And they're talking about things that the client doesn't care about. So this is the other reason why sending an overview of a process that is vastly different. And I want to make this very clear. If your service package looks like every other agent in your market, you're in trouble. You have to have something that is unique and tailored to the niche that you're trying to attract. Now, once you've built that and you send it in advance, that person reads it, they're going to come to that meeting with questions. Yeah. They're going to come to that meeting knowing what they need to know from you. And really, your main job is to answer those questions and make that person feel comfortable. It's not to sell that person. And I really think that that's where, because then if you go in there and you give the same presentation that, 3 other people have already given, the only thing that you're competing on is price. There's 2 things that they care about: your commission and your recommended list price. And so you end up in a race to the bottom. Mm-hmm. And so you have to, again, create a tremendous amount of value, and money comes from trust. And so your whole purpose of that meeting is to build face-to-face trust and to build trust in your method.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Couple thoughts on that. One, I totally agree. We kind of teach the same thing. In fact, at our brokerage, we give agents, it's like a box with 188 pieces of marketing collateral that's customized to that listing. So it's like flyers and thank you cards and custom business cards with the listing pictures on the back and all of that. And so they take a sample box to the listing to be able to stand out from other agents. 1 and 2, I love the framework of changing it from a listing presentation to a listing conversation. Because I agree that, asking questions is critical. It's more about finding out what their needs are. And my favorite question to ask is always, what's most important to you and your family about making this move? Mm-hmm. And then they're going to tell you the most important thing.
And then you can focus on that thing.
Now you focus on that. You build your presentation around it, and you're good to go.
They say the best salespeople ask 72 questions.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, it makes total sense. Like when you go to your doctor, you tell him what's wrong and he starts asking you questions. He doesn't just prescribe you medication or send you to surgery. So it's really about getting clear on what their needs are, getting to be on their side of the table, and then your closing ratio will improve a lot.
Totally. Especially awesome. If they're inbound, if they're inbound clients. If someone's been following you for 3 to 6 months and consuming your content, or been in your funnel for 3 or 4 months, like those people are going to be a lot warmer, in my opinion, than even a referral, because that referral doesn't actually know anything about you. They just know that their friend John really liked you. When you walk into someone's home or in the door, and someone says, "I feel like I know you,"
you're already winning.
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, this has been great. One thing I kind of like to wrap with is, in 60 seconds or less, what does it take to be a high volume, top producing agent?
Leverage.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. Success is measured by your absence and not your presence. So
Ooh, I
most
like that.
agents are in their business hustling and grinding every day, and the really successful people, the people who are the most successful in any industry, but especially in real estate, have marketing systems and team and automation and all of the things built into their business that will essentially remove the need or the necessity for their time.
No, that's good. Leverage, leverage, leverage. Very cool. And this whole system we talked about today is kind of the easiest way to build that leverage. So
It's
people
definitely
that,
step one. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So people that want to connect with you and learn more, where can they find you and how can they do that?
Instagram is probably the easiest place, and my handle is just my name, at Jess Lenouvel.
Awesome. That's easy enough. Definitely make sure you guys connect with her. And as always, if you like money and you like real estate, hit that subscribe button because this is the show for you. Thanks, Jess. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. I appreciate you.